is Netanyahu going to use nuclear weapons? People say, wow, you're crazy. Not really. Think about what the whole mentality of messianic religions, and I'm referring more specifically to Abrahamic religions because they are the ones that I am more familiar with. Abrahamic religions being Judaism and Christianity and their variants. One of the tenets of, or the pillars of messianic religions, and in this case, the one that affects and guides many of the principles of Zionism, which is, in my view, in my opinion, quite asinine. Basically, their whole purpose was to steal land from the Palestinians and designate it as Israel and start a farmer state, and that includes this practice of bringing about the Armageddon, so it would trigger the coming of their Messiah. They don't recognize Jesus figure as Messiah. They don't recognize Jesus as the son of the Judeo-Christian God. So, go back to that statement or question. Is Netanyahu going to use nuclear weapons? And if you're going to stick to their belief system, and I'm not saying Netanyahu believes in any gods or anything, because the proponents of as far as I've read and heard from just reading stuff and whatnot, the Zionists, the founders of Zionism, were and are many of, not the founders, but founders are not alive anymore, but only the practitioners, founders of Zionism, were atheists, as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the whole, however, they'll use religion as a tool, as a weapon to control. But part of a lot of the Zionists' belief system is that they have to bring about Armageddon and to trigger the coming of their Messiah and the kingdom of their God will be established, with them being the dominant group of humans. It's just another form of classism. And it's we're the chosen ones and you're not. Just another recycling of the bullshit of classism that has been the worst plague in human history, if you ask me. So my son is texting me, and so back to the question: is Netanyahu going to use nuclear weapons? Judging by their behavior, they're trying to establish what's called Greater Israel. It's a fictional construction of Zionists, where it's just another form of, it's just a new empire. They're just killing everybody around, stealing land, and call it their own. Because based on their religious belief system, that belongs to them. You know, the same shit that modern Europeans and ancient Europeans were doing. I'm talking about not ancient, when there weren't any European countries recognized yet. I've been doing the same shit over and over. They used the stamp of approval from a religion, which is exactly what the invaders, that my European invader ancestors did in 1492, and they've been doing it before. They sought approval from the church, and the church issued edicts and papal bulls and the rest of the certificates. The Europeans are stuck with their, they still love their certificates. They love their fucking certificates, just like their permits and their certificates. And now it's official, it's ours. And if you get in the way, we'll kill you. That's the way they've been working this. They're still working it. They're doing it now with Venezuela. They're sacking, they're pillaging everything in Venezuela, openly stealing. And they just issued permits. Now it's official, it's ours. And you dare get in our way, we'll kill you, bomb the shit out of you. And hallelujah. And that's what God wants us to do. But they did that with the invasion. My Spaniard and Portuguese and Christian ancestors, they've been doing it. Now they're doing it again. And so their buddies are doing the same. And mind you, people say, well, you're talking about Jewish people. It's like, listen, man, these are Europeans. Zionism is a European movement. Okay? Ashkenazi. So let's just get that out of the way. Which is that's the fact. Netanyahu is Milikowski or something like that. That's his real last name, Milikowski. They're Polish. And it's Europeans, and they, now they're doing to the Arabs the same shit Hitler did to them and their grandpa and their pops. Now they're doing to the Palestinians and the Arabs. So back to, is Netanyahu going to use nuclear weapons? It's in their playbook. Think about it. They won't submit to inspections. They won't submit to the IEA, International Atomic Energy Commission, or I'm probably getting the name wrong. The people who supervise, they're not the nuclear weapons that humans have. They haven't signed that agreement. They never will. As far as I know, the French gave Israel, the Zionists, French gave them nuclear weapons. They're not declared. But I keep thinking, now that Iran, see, they thought they were just, they got, see, Donald Trump's such an idiot. You just pat him on the back and give him some money. He'll do whatever the fuck you want to do. Usually it was United States governments, both Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter. Post World War II, the calculations or the estimates is the United States has killed about 38 million people. In conflicts from Korea to Vietnam to Iraq, etc., Latin America, through the support of dictatorships, etc., etc. So usually what they do is they arm the people and get them to do whatever the hell they want. They get the people of those areas to do the dirty work. Because after Vietnam, you know, they had to change because people frowned upon 45,000 caskets coming home in a 20-year period, which is around how many caskets allegedly came to the United States, went to the United States during the Vietnam War. And that was not going to work, especially if they were white people. Even though the percentage, when you looked at the percentage of the black and Latino community that went to fight in Vietnam versus the percentage of the white community, rich or poor, that went to fight for Vietnam was absolutely wantonly and grotesquely racist. The representation of the people who, from our communities who went to fight and die, or fight, period, was the percentage was, grossly larger than. Go look it up. You don't have to believe me. Go look it up. So after that, they changed their strategy, the United States and the Western powers, to just focus more on arming people from whatever conflict area they decided to go sell weapons at, so they can exert their hegemony, their power, to preserve their dominance of world economy. They changed it to a more local-based approach. We'll give you the weapons. You fight the war and do whatever the hell we tell you to do, and we'll keep you in power. And then doing that, Pinochet, all the dictators in Venezuela, Paris, the dictators in Argentina, everywhere in Latin America. And in the Middle East, everywhere. So they're still doing it. But Trump, idiot that he is, now he's directly doing Netanyahu's bidding. Now one has to wonder why he's so eager to do Netanyahu's bidding at the drop of a hat. Why is that? What does Netanyahu have on this piece of shit? Well, I think we all know what's up. Jeffrey Epstein was an agent of the Mossad for a long time. Donald Trump's compromise, the accusations, he verified now that one of the victims of this scumbag that we have in the White House come out, and the investigations are open, even though they have not released the full files. They're telling them exactly, hey, this guy's implicated, but they have more damning evidence. They have more. They have to have it. So that's my take on it. Why this guy's so eager to go for Iran, and not that he's not a piece of shit. This guy's a scumbag and a malignant narcissist. He doesn't care. He likes inflicting pain and he enjoys it. It's been demonstrated. But it's taken down the country, the United States, down the path of authoritarianism to fascist regime, what he's installing. And the Democrats haven't had the balls to call for a general strike to stop the brazen illegality of everything, and disregard for court orders and everything. It's just a mob rule. That's basically, a gangster presidency. Is what it is. Blatant corruption from his kids and everybody. Just fuck it. Let's just go all out. It's a barrage of attacks on the Constitution, open attacks on the Constitution, And he's got a complicit right-wing court, thanks to the Republicans who stole the judges from Democrats. So now people ask, I think it's called the Samsung directive, and they've had this policy, the Zionists regime, that live in invaded Palestine. They're also known as Israel. It's wrong to call it. Israel doesn't exist, not in its current form. And what that directive says is that if there's an existential threat to the Zionist regime, also known as modern Israel, which is nothing more than invaded Palestine, meaning if they see that they're going to get wiped out, then they'll trigger World War III. And how will they do that? Well, they'll release their nuclear weapons, and they'll shoot their nuclear weapons at whoever the hell they want, because this is their belief system, that Armageddon has to happen for the coming of their Messiah and the beginning of their paradise on earth, and their hegemony of the Zionist people. So yes, now do I think he's going to do it? I think it's on the table right now. Where things stand, they've completely stopped coverage. They've banned videos that show the actual condition of Israel after the Iranian strikes. They thought they were gonna kill This is Bibi Netanyahu's wet dream. He's been wanting to destroy Iran for eons, for 40 years. He's been advocating. They've been threatening us for 40 years. The stupidity of that statement. It's just, well, we got to kill the neighbor because he's been wanting to kill me for 40 years. Motherfucker, if somebody's been wanting to kill you for 40 years, according to you, I don't think he's been wanting to kill you for 40 years. You've been paranoid and have an ulterior motive for 40 years. You need to check yourself with a psychiatrist, because they've had the means to fuck you up for a long time and they haven't done so. Okay? But you've been attacking them militarily, stealing their land, and then talking to the Palestine, to the Arabs. You've been going to war against everybody since 1947. Stealing everybody, committing massacres and Nakbas and genocide. The latest one, they're still going on. You know, now they're going to build luxury apartment buildings on top of the craniums of the little Palestinian kids. I'm wondering if they're going to use their bones as decoration. That's how fucked up these people are. So, it's on the table. If and mind you, the Iranians, I'm not, just the fact that, just because I don't like somebody's, regime doesn't mean I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. I'm going to take out their entire leadership. Not their entire leadership. It was more symbolic. The Ayatollah was dying of cancer. He wasn't really calling many shots, Are they oppressive? Absolutely. Would I like a different government for the Iranian people? Sure. Everybody wants something better for their kids, themselves. But the stupidity of Donald Trump is to attack the metropolitan areas, the cities, where most of the people who would support a regime change live. So you're attacking the people that are more likely to want a regime change, and thinking that you're going to get support for a regime change. You're killing them if your first strike is against kids. And I hear the people, oh, they put their installations right in the middle of cities and populated areas and schools and blah blah blah. Everybody does that. Where do you think the Pentagon is? Smack dab in the fucking middle of the city. Okay, so please spare us that shit. Okay, the nerve centers of military apparatuses around the world have to be, for the most part, in metropolitan areas and urban areas. Why? Because most of the infrastructure, the communications, the water, everything, electricity, and it's in urban areas. Just the way it is. You know, it's always been like that. So there's people that they try to demonize. Well, they're yeah, and plus, if you know that they're in urban areas, you have to work around that. Not target. And it's not, oh, it was them, well, they missed it. No, they attacked it twice, 40 minutes apart with 2 Tomahawks. And Trump went on national TV lying, oh, that was their own rockets, which are really bad. You know, and people eat that shit up like they're stupid. Look, man, there's 2 Tomahawks. Killed about 160 little girls and their teachers. Their first, and that's right up the alley. Exactly the plan that Netanyahu and his savages use. That's what they've been doing forever. So back to, are they going to use nuclear weapons? Netanyahu. And people think, well, we're trying to stop the development of a nuclear weapon from Iran. No, you weren't. You know, Trump left the agreement. He's the one, they had the most comprehensive agreement for nuclear control of Iran's nuclear program in the world. They had access to everything. And Trump said, no, fuck that. And then you see the morons saying, oh, but Obama gave them $13 billion or however much it was. It was their money that got frozen to use as leverage to get the Iranians to the negotiating table. So say, hey, we need to get in there and see what you're doing. And if we do that and you agree to all these terms, to inspection and the whole 9 yards, never mind we're surrounded you by with United States military bases everywhere in that area around you. But if you do that, if you agree to these terms, we'll give you your own money back, which we froze. That was part of the deal. And Trump broke that. And they said, well, that was a bad deal because it allowed them to enrich. It allowed them to use nuclear power for civilian and medical purposes. And it was under the control and strict inspection of the International Atomic Energy Commission. They had access everywhere. And Trump got out of that. You see? So now he's claiming he's trying to stop it. He's the one who created this bullshit. You know, so now we have a situation where Iran is a big country. I think it's about 100 million people. And big amount of, not just, they have a lot of cities. And they also have natural barriers, mountains and deserts and the whole 9 yards. People think, well, just invade. Do you have any idea how hard it would be to take control of that country right now? And they're armed to the teeth because they've been getting attacked and bombed and shit. And then they sat down to negotiate in one of the Gulf states. And while they're negotiating, it was nothing but a cover. They did exactly the same shit that the Japanese did before they struck Pearl Harbor. When they struck Pearl Harbor, they were negotiating with the United States. So they did the exact same thing. They were on, let's talk about, let's negotiate. And while they're negotiating, Israel and the United States bombed the shit out of them. So, it's fucked up. And then this is not the first time. Soleimani or that general that Trump killed, they were negotiating. They actually had, they tricked them into it. So the Iranians got tired of it, of all the tricks from the Mossad and during the demonstrations, the Mossad infiltrated a bunch of people and Israeli agents started attacking police stations in Iran to make the demonstrations against Iranian government worse and more violent. So, and they killed a bunch of cops. So when the Iranian government fired back and they killed whoever was attacking the police stations and stuff, all of a sudden they're monsters and shit, which I'm sure they're not angels, but hey, they turned a bad situation into a catastrophe for the Iranian people. Mossad, they just like they did with their beepers, killing people and innocent people and phones and everything, putting bombs on their phones. So these are monsters that I'm talking about the Israelis. The Israeli Zionist government. They're truly, truly fascist monsters, genocidal scumbags. Well, Netanyahu, now the Iranians have bombed a bunch of installations, and now they've gone hardline. Now they got nothing to lose. They're not negotiating. It's like, we're not going to negotiate with you. Last negotiation, you started the negotiation by murdering 160 little girls in a school of ours. So fuck you. Now we're going to fight. And so you're going to kill me, so let it be. Well, I'm going to take as many of you motherfuckers as I can with me. And they've been preparing for about 20 years for an attack. So they have a strategy. They've been depleting the rockets from, the interceptors. Now the United States is not supplying interceptors to the Gulf states, only to Israel, that I know of, but they're going to run out too. So that's what they've been doing. They've been throwing the shitty stuff first, and then they're attacking anybody who's in cahoots, who's partnered up with the United States. You're game. And I don't blame them. You're firing shit at us on behalf of our enemy. So you're our enemy too. Fuck you, So I will do that. Hey, we're neighbors. Yeah, but you're shooting at me. And you're letting my enemy put machine guns on your roof. Shooting at me. You're letting your neighbor use your backyard to throw mortars at me. Oh, I just rented to him. Yeah, no, fuck you. I'm shooting at you too. Yeah, it's on, baby. So you can't blame the Iranians for it. They didn't shoot first. So they're truly defending themselves. It's an existential threat to them. If they don't fight back, they'll be wiped out. And this business that the United States and Israel say, well, just give up your weapons and we'll be nice and we'll let you live. Right. You see, there's a credibility problem here. When you're doing business with somebody and they don't keep their agreements and they say, you know what, I've killed, about 50,000. I've killed about 100,000 of you, but let's just make a deal. And there's 5,000 of us left. You know what they're going to do to us. No, we're going out guns blazing. I'm going to go out fighting. I don't think the Iranians are in that position right now. Do they have the upper hand? I don't know. But I do know, and just by common sense, It is impossible with the amount of firepower that has been delivered, not shot, delivered to the streets and the military bases, not only in Israel, but military bases of the United States has in that area. It's impossible for the death count to be 7. I'm sorry, and especially anything that comes out of the mouth of Donald Trump and his scumbag associates. I don't believe shit that comes out there. So they're lying. We don't know yet. We're going to find out, and I'll be very surprised if it's not in the hundreds already, because you don't actually think the United States is just going to empty a base before a hit. It's just it doesn't make sense. Even if you know that it's coming, you're going to leave a skeleton crew that has to operate that base. It's just too risky to leave such high power and sensitive equipment like the equipment they have in those bases all over the Gulf states to be by itself. There have to be people operating, okay, and security, just for security. I'm wondering what happens, and so they've been getting hit, hammered, and now they're using the Mach 14 shit, the Fatahs. Those are very, very fast. It's impossible to intercept, and they move. Even if you predict the architecture of this protection system in Israel, the architecture of it is not built for anything above Mach 4, from what I've been reading. Mach 14 is another completely bulky. And not only that, those munitions, those missiles, they're firing, the Iran is firing, they move. They don't have an arch. It's not just an arch. It's an arch, and and it moves. So it's not designed. That protection system, Israel protective system, is not designed to intercept those. It's just impossible. And I don't know if you've seen the strikes. And I don't know if you saw the strikes from Russia in Ukraine with their hypersonic missiles on Ukraine. It's scary, man. That shit is scary. It's impossible to intercept. It's over, man. They can wipe out a city with that shit. So they've already destroyed the. Hey! My cousin's daughter is here with me. She's running. I can't run. She can run. I'm too old to run. And then, so if this architecture cannot intercept this, right? It's just they don't have the goods to intercept it. And now they're blind. The Gulf states are blind, and they're out of rockets. So now Israel's running out of rockets, and they're getting hits after hit after hit after hit onto Tel Aviv, Haifa. Israel struck the oil depots in Tehran and turned it into the Iraqi oil field scenario where there's sulfuric rain and gas all over the city. People are dying because of that. It's going to trigger a more ferocious response from Iran towards Israel. Now, mind you, they've been disciplined so far. People say whatever, they can say whatever they want to say. They're just not getting enough launchers out of commission, enough Iranian launchers out of commissions to stop the rain of missiles. And they have in the tens of thousands. Iran has tens of thousands of these things. Okay? All over the place. Easy to mask. And they have factories of drones, cheap drones. And it becomes a math problem, a basic math problem. You're gonna run out of $4 million per missile interceptors before we run out of our $2,000 or $20,000 drones. A lot faster than we are. And they're all over the place. And eventually, since they're striking the equipment that is needed to intercept, they're going to be more. I don't think they're going to stop. They're going to be able to catch all the. Mind you, Iran is huge, and I don't think they're going to be able to stop the rain of Iranian missiles. And they're not. The Iranians are not gonna surrender. They're not. You understand who these people are. These people have been around for thousands of years. They're not a little 250-year-old republic. These are the Persians, in case you haven't studied. They have a long history of warfare. And plus, you add religious fanaticism to that. And now, this attack, if there were fractures inside of Iran, what happens when, let's say you're fighting with your cousin and all that stuff, but somebody from another neighborhood starts shooting at you and your cousin's kids and my kids, my cousin and I, we're going to put our differences aside and we're going to get a fucking gun and we're going to fuck you up. That's what's going to happen. And that's what Iran is doing. Okay? When the smoke clears, they'll figure out what they want. But they're not going to surrender. That's the stupidity of this regime from the Trump administration, from the Trump regime. You're making them more resolved, and you're putting them against the wall. So you combine all that, and all those facts, and that historical background, and who these people are, and what they have to defend themselves and fight back. There's a possibility where they've already struck the nerve center, what amounts to be the Pentagon in Israel, twice. Now that we know of, and they're slowly. They don't have to penetrate. You got to understand, a bunker. You don't have to penetrate it to affect it. A bunker, if you go ahead and destroy all the vents, all the electrical stuff, that stuff doesn't go miles and miles and miles. Most of the stuff. Remember, a building is a building. It's built by people, by engineers and construction crews, and designed by military architects and the whole nine yards. But at the end of the day, people in there need to breathe. They need to eat, drink water, shit. You have to get that shit out of there because they get sick. You have to get medicine in and out. They're just people. So you deny them the in and out capabilities of that bunker, and you're going to rattle their cage really, so to speak. Rattle their cage. They're in a cage underground. Eventually, they have to breathe. You fuck with the infrastructure outside, and you deny them the access, and you're really going to hamper the capability to operate eventually. And those, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're not using solar power to feed those bunkers. Man, that's fucking generators, diesel. That shit got to breathe. You can't just pump the diesel back into the bunker. So you see what I'm saying? It's this basic existence level, warfare. Your technology could be really high, but that technology is powered by electricity, and that technology is handled by humans, and humans have needs. So these cluster bombs that Iran is dropping, and they're going after all the infrastructure around that feeds those bunkers. Not that they don't have shit that can penetrate it, but if they don't have to use it, why use it? See, it's people smart. People think, oh, they're Arab, they're stupid. No, these people look up the Persian Empire, and they've been, and even with a horrendous embargo from the United States and Europe and everybody and their sister, they've managed to resist and produce and become very powerful, military. Look what's happening. They had to retreat. The United States, not we. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm a United States citizen. But when I say we, I mean the United States, because I live in jurisdiction in the United States. The United States had to pull back an aircraft carrier about 1,000 kilometers because they were in range of Iranian drones and shit. And now it's a new United States. The United States military is not a 21st century drone warfare military. They're still back in an old United States 20th century battlefield shit. That's not how it works. One drone can take out a fucking carrier. You see? So old school, stay the fuck away, far away from danger tactics still apply. So I think here's what I think could bring a nuclear strike from Netanyahu. If the United States, because it's hitting, because the United States is hitting is having problems because of the stupidity of Donald Trump and his regime, of attacking, of getting into a war on behalf of Netanyahu and his Zionist scumbags. They're feeling the heat now because of gas prices skyrocketing, the prices, everything, jobs in the shitter. The economy is fucked up. It's an absolute fucking disaster right now, and it's going down on a speedboat. The United States, it's a pariah. They're having problems with China, with all this tariff shit. They're pulling out of, and here's the big one. Here's the big one. People don't understand how petrodollars work. It's a racket. It's a trick. It's a racket. The way it works is the United States, under threat, and through bribe, convinced the oil-producing Gulf states, mostly the Gulf states, the Arab states, Saudi and the rest, to and the world to do transactions with mostly the Arabs to sell oil in dollars. That strengthens the dollar artificially because it's the coin, the currency used for buying most of the petroleum on the planet. Now, what happens? Where's the trick? Here's the trick. Those Arab states invest in Wall Street with that money that they make from the sale of those of their oil in dollars. It's a money laundering Ponzi scheme. Okay? So it's artificially, Wall Street is artificially kept afloat and solvent and profitable by petrodollars. Quite the racket, eh? So what happens when you cut off the spigot, and when you and they're not selling any more oil because Iran blew up the ports where that oil comes out of. Now they're not selling. Now those petrodollars are not coming in. Now those same Arab states that Iran bombed are not investing in the United States economy through Wall Street. There's the problem. So now Donald Trump put himself and the entire fucking Western world, United States and its allies, against the wall. Because like Richard Pryor once says, white people can't live without money. None of us, because we're stuck in a market system that operates with currency, with money. All right. So now, if it collapses or it starts to, and it's starting to, go pump some gas, go buy some groceries. Now the supply chains are affected. We have everything comes in from China, and then if it comes in from China, we're in trouble now because China buys from petroleum from Iran. So now the supply chain gets a wrench. They closed the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse my pronunciation. So 20% of the world's oil goes through there. So now they're having to use strategic, whatever they got saved for emergencies, for an artificial emergency created by Donald Trump and his fascist, Zionist, scumbag, genocidal pieces of shit from the Netanyahu people. So now you created an entire collapse of the world economy coming. So if Donald Trump says, okay, that's it, we won, we've accomplished our blah, 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 and we have a great understanding, one of the convoluted lies that he uses. So if he does that and he leaves, and now all of a sudden he doesn't have the carrier groups helping Netanyahu shoot down shit, and he's just providing them some rockets and some weapons, and all of a sudden more missiles start raining on Tel Aviv, and they start getting desperate because they want to start getting overrun. That's when it could happen. And one launch, if Netanyahu says, fuck it, I'm gonna hit Tehran with a nuclear weapon, a small one. I don't know what they have, but if they have a small one, that's gonna trigger China and Russia to hit them. See? And it can, then all bets are over. And then you better have some fucking water and canned food for a long time. Because trucks are not going to be able to run. You're not going to be able to put gas in your vehicle. People live far the fuck away from where they work. And if you can't work, you can't pay the mortgage and blah, 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 and it rolls. And people don't have gardens in their house where they can just go to the backyard and pick food. That's just not how it works. Yeah, you gotta leave. So, do I think Netanyahu is going to use him? It depends on if Donald Trump bails out, which I think he's going to do. You see? I think he's going to do it. It started raining. I think, he thinks he can do this short wars and retreat and claim victory. But this time, it's not going to work. This time, if he doesn't pull back, and that's the problem. That's the problem with having a compromised president. I think he's compromised. I think there's a PP video out there, and I think there's photo evidence of him with little girls. This already come out. But even more compromised than that, because these people are sick. And they called off the investigation on the ranch, Jeffrey Epstein Ranch, but now the state picked it up. And there's a possibility, they're saying they got little girls out there buried in that ranch. This is fucked up. This is how fucked up the world we live in is. You know? So, I can people say, okay, how do we fix it? How do we fix this? We have to, and I keep saying this, the last stop before a full-on civil war in the United States, the last stop is a general strike. That's the last stop. Because if it doesn't work, that's what's coming. I don't want them to go down. They're pushing for that. The rule of law has stopped working in the United States. For the big people, for you and me, go ahead and fuck up out there and go speed. You'll get a ticket. Not this motherfuckers. You can rape kids and still be president. So, that's what worries me. You know, that's what worries me. I think the world has to unite. And not only that, I think the kids who are serving are going to have to stop taking orders. This entire operation is illegal. The entire Iran war is illegal. So, wars are going to stop when the people who fight the wars stop fighting them. You don't expect Iran to take the first step. They tried and it didn't work. Now the existential for them, they're not going to stop until the West stops. Until Israel, the Nazi regime in Israel, and Nazi ain't that something? That them motherfuckers are doing the exact same shit that the Nazi did to their grandparents in Germany. They're doing it to the Arabs in the area. Isn't that something? So, do I think they're gonna all of a sudden the military personnel around the world, but let's say the United States and the Western allies are gonna stop following orders? I don't think so. Because we've been conditioned and ingrained, and we've been indoctrinated to follow. And mostly it came from religions. This is why I have a beef with religion. If you tell a person that to believe that there's an invisible, all-powerful, imaginary character in the sky that sent his own son for a human blood sacrifice so that your sins, you were born with sins, you were born dirty, and in order to be clean, somebody very powerful had to die and spill their blood so that you would be clean, thus you owe them. You see the mentality of indoctrination? If you can get somebody to believe that stupid shit, you can get them to do anything. Even sacrifice their own children for a genocidal maniac and a deranged, racist, pathological lying, child raping piece of shit like Donald Trump. They go hand in hand, man. That's the problem. We have an indoctrination problem as a species, and we have to stop. And we can't wait 20 years, like people say. We can't wait 20 years to do it. It's going to take some brave soldiers to say that's enough. We're not going to fire. We're done. Send us home. I'm going to put you in jail. Put me in jail. Do what I'm going to shoot. I'm not going to push that button. I'm tired of killing humans. That would be almost a miracle. But what's going to take, for people to refuse to follow illegal orders. And we're gonna and Donald Trump is not gonna stop on his own. He's not gonna resign. The Republicans are not gonna concede if they lose. They're trying everything. They're trying to pass that draconian law, that SAVE Act, just to steal the election and not let anybody vote, women, no one. They pulled out all their stops to keep their cult leader, their scumbag cult leader, in power. And it's not about their scumbag cult leader anymore. It's about the party right now. I call them the American Nazi Party, the most dangerous religious cult in human history. It's called the modern Republican Party. So they're not going to concede in November. They're going to lose. They're not going to relinquish power. None of them. Donald Trump is going to declare a state of emergency, the Insurrection Act, and do what Bukele did in El Salvador, and his followers will be applauding him. So, but I do think he's going to pull out he'll try to find an exit ramp for the Iran war. Because, if you collapse the economy, then you're going to create chaos. And even the people in the military are going to feel the heat. Right? So you're going to fucking dissolve society. So, again, is Netanyahu gonna use a nuclear weapon? It all depends on how bad and how close Iran gets to destroying Tel Aviv. I think the people in Israel are key to saving the people in Israel. When they feel the heat, when it starts coming in, where there are just so many missiles and hypersonic missiles landing on Israeli cities in occupied Palestine, which is what it is, that they cannot tolerate it anymore, and they start, there's only so many shelters, okay? They're in shelters, and those shelters do not allow people who are non-Jewish in there. They're a completely racist society. It's an apartheid state. I think the key to this is the Israeli people, the Zionists, not the hardcore, not the hardcore ones. Israeli people, Joe Blow out there, say, okay, that's enough. And the opposition people, and they're going to have to look. They're going to have to look to remove Netanyahu and his group of genocidal scumbags. That they're going to have to do it. I don't think Israel's going to survive. But if they want to stop the madness, they have to take care of, remove Netanyahu by force. They're going to have to, and his cronies, because he's destroying whatever's left. It's not there yet, but it's coming. Everything's pointing towards that, and they have to do it before it gets too bad. And they have to take his finger off of the button, because he still has the finger on the button. And meaning he has the authority right now to give the order, say, push that button. Okay? And if that happens, humanity is in dire straits. We go into subsistence level because we can't survive. We only have, look what happened in the pandemic. It really, how much stock do you think supermarkets have? It's less than a week. Okay? So if it stops, if society stops delivering, if supply chains get cut off, disrupted heavily, then You got one run to the supermarket, one run, and you see what happened, and then you're out of luck. And it's not like you can go to the river and eat the fish, or go to the sea and eat the fish. It's contaminated, everything. And people are not going to go there, and it's going to get to subsistence level. That's after a nuclear exchange happens, and I don't know how many hundreds of millions of people get killed. So if this happens, if Netanyahu starts a nuclear war, the state of existence for our species will become precarious and will be decimated heavily, and the survivors will die by the tens of millions of people from disease and starvation, and those who survive will only have, and then you don't have medicine production, you don't have, only those who are able to subsist at basic level. All the old people will die because they won't be able to have enough medicine for them. It will be catastrophic. It will be biblical, apocalyptic. This is where we are in 2026. That close to a complete catastrophe and destruction of our species level event. The survivors, and it will take eons for humans to again develop societies, and this is not the era of the Persian Empire where it will be shit like the plague, the bubonic plague, where half of the population of the fucking earth, of Europe, was wiped out. So, God help us, man. I don't think there is one, but it's a colloquialism. It's a slang term. The people of Israel have to remove Netanyahu, and they have to paralyze. So it's got to be. They have to take to the streets. That's the problem. There's missiles raining down, right? So the military people from the opposition in Israel has to remove the military. There has to be a military coup and remove Netanyahu and his scumbags from power. They have to do a military coup. And the United States has to have a general strike and remove the Republicans from power. Just stop the entire nation. Stop the entire nation. Because if we don't, the risk of heavy duty human casualties, I'm talking in the hundreds of millions, is very real. I have to stop this shit, man. We're better than this.